Welcome to the Cleric Corner, where we talk about all things Dungeons and Dragons, and we tap into our higher powers to create worlds that are more unique and stories that are more impactful. Do you want simple ways to make your world memorable for your players? To engage them in a meaningful way that doesn't overcomplicate prep time or plot? Or just overall improve your Dungeon Master skills and the tools at your arsenal? Now, in fact, I would too. Now, if there was only a way that we could figure that out. Oh, well, I guess we're gonna have to play a little Blue's Clues then. Thanks, Blue. Now, how are we gonna get rid of this? I know. We're good. Now, if you've never played Blue's Clues before, we'll get into that in a second. In the meantime, what we're gonna do in this video is we're going to go over 3 children's TV shows and look at ways that we can learn from them to implement into our own games. And why are we looking at these TV shows, you may ask? Because if elements of these shows keep kids 10 and under focused and engaged for long periods of time, then rest assured some elements that we'll take away from it will help keep your players engaged and having fun as well. And maybe by the end, we'll have enough clues to figure out the overarching theme and figure out the best strategy to bring into your game. So as we go into the first show, comment below on TV shows that you watched as a kid. And make sure to like, subscribe, and share your videos with your friends so we can help the algorithm spread the good word of D&D. Number 1, Blue's Clues. Now, for those of you who have not seen the show, it consists of basically 2 main characters, Blue, the pet dog, and the owner, which if you watched the show when I was a kid, you would know Steve, the guy in the green shirt. But if you're more young and you've watched it more recently and don't know what an existential crisis is, you would know Josh, which is the guy with the blue shirt. Now, each episode starts with either Josh or Steve having a question, and Blue comes up and puts the paw print on the screen, as you saw before, introducing the game of Blue's Clues. Throughout the episode, Josh or Steve would find paw prints that Blue had left on certain items or pictures that would give him insight into the answer to the question that they had. Once they get 3 clues, they sit down on their thinking chair and think, and come up with the answer. For example, right before this video, I was watching a Blue's Clues episode for research purposes, and I'll tell you, nostalgia hits you like a ton of bricks. And the episode was about Blue's birthday, and Josh, in this case, had to figure out what Blue wanted for her birthday. And throughout the episode, he found the color green, a fish tank, and a turtle shell, realizing that Blue wanted a turtle for her birthday. Now, what does this even have to do with Dungeons and Dragons? And I'll tell you, it's mystery. If you've ever struggled to pull off a whodunit, a mystery, or just an overall detective-themed quest in your Dungeons and Dragons sessions, Blue's Clues really simplifies it for us. In fact, here's 3 tips that Blue's Clues gives us to make better mysteries in our game. Tip number 1, make it obvious. Begin with the end in mind. The players shouldn't be asking themselves, what do we need to figure out? They should know what they need to figure out. They should know what's happened, and the answer is who, what, where, when, or how. It would do Josh no good to start finding paw prints that Blue had left on random objects around his house if he didn't know what he was trying to accomplish. I think as DMs we're tempted to put a lot of things out there, but with no context, our players really don't know what to do with them. And if the goal isn't obvious, the players aren't invested. It's like me going to you, telling you, hey, you should get into the fish tank business. And you going, well, why? And I'll say, I don't know, I'm sure you'll figure it out along the way. I don't think you would be too invested in that. Make it obvious for the players so that they know that by the end of whatever is happening, they will know an answer to this question. Tip number 2, make each clue obvious. Put a literal paw print on it. So many players will bypass information and bypass clues because they don't have enough context. They don't know how it ties into the current quest, and why should they? They don't know the end result. They don't have the full picture yet. But if you make the clue obvious, it's easy for them to stay on track. And you might say, isn't that a little railroady? Nope, it's not, because they still have to decide what to do with the information, how to interpret it, and how to proceed to the next one. So slap a BBEG's name on it. Have an NPC deliver it to one of the players. Have a player's backstory wrap into it. Put a paw print on it, make it obvious. Tip number 3, the third clue is the giveaway. One of the worst things that could possibly happen is your players get all of the clues and they sit back down and have no idea still what to do. So they spend hours of in-game time arguing and figuring out what to do next while you scramble to figure things out on the fly. It's frustrating for both you and the players, and it's unsatisfactory to the story. So, like my example that I gave with Blue wanting a gift for her birthday, and the 3 clues were the color green, a fish tank, and a turtle shell, the turtle shell was the dead giveaway. Blue wanted a turtle for her birthday. So, the third clue might be stumbling into an enemy hideout, catching the bad guy in the act, or actually finding a confession note. It's what the film industry calls the smoking gun. There should be little argument on what the resolution is. Now, along the way of all of these clues, there's plenty of time for downtime, plenty of time for side quests. Sure, you're not putting sprinkles on cupcakes or making dioramas out of toilet paper holders, but don't be afraid to fill things up. As long as you make your clues obvious, this process could take as little as 1 game session, or as long as your entire campaign. Now come on, vamonos! On to the next one. Show number 2, Dora the Explorer. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, it follows Dora and her pet familiar, Boots the monkey, as they go on many crazy adventures. And it always starts, again, with the end in mind. They know the destination that they're going to. They consult their map, who is conveniently named Map, who sings a song about their destination and the places that they need to go in order to get there. I just had a crazy thought that these last 2 shows are just filled with mimics with levels in Bard. Anyways, how do we apply this to our game? It may be obvious. Travel. Travel can sometimes be pretty tedious, but if we keep it interesting and fun, the journey becomes just as good as the destination. So from Dora the Explorer, here comes tip number 1, show them the path. Tell the players what's on the map, whether it be an NPC that says, hey, these are the places that you need to go to get there, or they just have a map already, let them know what's there. And usually, in Dora's case, it includes 2 challenges or locations first before getting to the 3rd and final location or challenge, which doubles as the destination. If they know what to expect, then there should be no issue when there is a failed saving throw or failed check, whether it be survival or investigation or whatever, and they end up in a place that was not on their map or not where the NPC told them to go. In Dora, they do the same thing, where they give you 2 options or a crossroads. You have to make sure that you're going the right way. If the players know that they need to go through a cave and they end up in a lake, they know they're lost. And you can always throw random encounters at them due to the failures when they come. Tip number 2, swiper, no swiping. This is an excellent time to bring a reoccurring villain or NPCs from players' backstory into the session. It doesn't always have to be a fight, because if you roll a high enough persuasion, swiper will go away. But it makes sense that if you're going to run into someone, it would be on the road to and from cities. It may also give you an opportune moment to steal or swipe magic items that you thought were not as powerful as they turned out to be for your players. I'm only half joking, but if swiper was successful, that's another side quest that your players can go on. Tip number 3, backpack. A great thing that this show does is that when they get to a destination or a location, they usually have something in their backpack that helps them through the challenge. And what's the backpack's name? Backpack. Who gets paid for this? So, if you're looking for inspiration to figure out what to throw your players, Look in their inventory. What did they have that could help them through certain challenges? When was the last time that Dragonborn used pitons? Is there a vein of precious metals nearby for your dwarf character with mason's tools? Or do you have a player with the Trident of Fish command? Throw them a river with a bunch of fish in it. Then, when they finally get to their destination, you can do what the show does and either ask the players or have them ask each other, what was your favorite part? And then you can find out elements that they enjoy and continue to make changes as you go. And always keep travel more interesting. Now for the next one, it's morphin' time. Number 3, Power Rangers. Now it depends on which Power Rangers you watched, but the premise is that a number of different characters represented by different colors fight off great evil with their ninja abilities and giant robotic animal transformers. This show also has things to take from to improve our game, and that is combat. Tip number 1, start with minions. In watching Power Rangers, you for sure are going to get an action-packed show. And one thing that many episodes do is they put out minions or lesser enemies for the characters to fight. These enemies usually are pretty quickly dealt with and easy for the characters to dispose of. And only after all of these minions are destroyed, only then does the bad guy reveal himself and start fighting the group. And you do this because when you put off facing the bad guy, it builds tension, it allows the players to tactically reserve spell slots and abilities, and makes fighting the boss something that they earned. Now this could be a group of minions, but it also could just be one minion, just enough to create a diversion or a distraction while the bad guy gets into a more opportune position. Tip number 2, power up. When the fight is over, it isn't over. In the show, when bad guys are defeated, they aren't defeated. It is then that they are powered up by some magical force and then grow to the size of a building, creating a even more immense foe for the characters. Now, I'm not saying grow all your bad guys into the size of the house, although growing Strahd into the size of the mansion would make a very interesting session, but definitely have a moment where the players think they have won right before the bad guy turns around and comes to his full strength. And this might come from a magic item that may be in its possession, or it might be a boon from a god or a devil, or it just might be a cleric hiding over in the bushes throwing out healing and buffs while the party can't see them. Tip number 3, collaborative abilities. What isn't cool about a bunch of robotic animals coming together to make a ninja Megatron? Now, this one takes a little forethought, but when the players can work together to defeat an enemy instead of killing the bad guy with just another fireball, it creates a memorable moment that the players will remember for a long time. Besides encouraging your players to actually work together, which as a DM, you want that all the time. Now, this will take a little bit of homebrew, but I'd argue that what in this game isn't homebrew, to create items or feats that work in tandem with one another. The items still work well alone, but once per day, maybe they can combine them together and create an additional effect. This can also reflect player cohesion as well over time as the players learn and develop how to work those things out. And if you're looking to better your homebrew abilities overall, you should check out one of my favorite YouTubers, The Dungeon Coach, as he does many videos on the subject. So now that we've looked at these 3 TV shows and how they could improve our overall mystery, travel, and combat in our game, did you figure out the answer to our question? Did you see the paw prints and figure out our overarching tip? If you look back, they're on numbers 1, 2, and 3. And one thing that makes all of these shows a success is the rule of 3. The rule of 3 is a process that explains how humans retain information through sets of patterns, the smallest of which is a set of 3. Using a set of 3 improves with comprehension, focus, and retention. Hey, there it is again. So as you use the rule of 3 in your game world will become more memorable, your players will become more engaged, and you will improve your skills overall as a dungeon master. So again, let me know what you watched as a kid, what TV shows you enjoyed, and possibly maybe what things you could take to implement in your game. In the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D so that we can make a better world both on and off our tables. See you in the next one.